Those trilateral talks with our oldest and closest allies, very interesting, and also, understandably, China, one of the key topics.
Yeah, absolutely, Kieran. It just seems like a lot of this trilateral meeting was all about China. We had been expecting a bilateral meeting between Scott Morrison and Joe Biden, the first face-to-face talks they've had since Biden's been president. Instead, we got this trilateral meeting, and you can see the emphasis on China from a statement put out a short time ago by President Biden, Prime Minister Johnson and Prime Minister Morrison. And I'll read it here. It says, President Biden, Prime Minister Johnson and Prime Minister Morrison met in the margins of the summit in Carbis Bay. They discussed a number of issues of mutual concern, including the Indo-Pacific region. They agreed the strategic context in the Indo-Pacific was changing and that there was a strong rationale for deepening cooperation between the three governments. Then they mentioned exercises in the Indo-Pacific by the carrier strike group led by HMS Queen Elizabeth. So kind of worrying here in terms of it seems to be a ratcheting up of tensions with China. They don't mention China, they just talk about tensions in the Indo-Pacific. Well, what else are they talking about? Scott Morrison held a press conference a couple of hours ago where I asked him about how much China featured in this meeting. How many times did the word China come up in the trilateral meeting?
Well, you wouldn't expect me to be going into any detail about the specific discussions. What we had the opportunity today was to discuss the Indo-Pacific situation more broadly. Australia has no greater friends than the United States and the United Kingdom, and we've been working together on our respective security issues for a very long time. And so we had a good opportunity to talk about those today and look to see how we can further cooperate in the future. The situation only reinforces the need for us to have deeper cooperation.
And it seems quite clear that Joe Biden and Scott Morrison are on the same page on this issue. There's been a lot of reporting in recent weeks about Joe Biden being concerned at this belief by China that they were getting the wood on America and other liberal democracies. I asked the PM about this. It's been reported that Joe Biden's concerned about liberal democracies coming under threat and autocracies, I guess, like China in particular and Russia rising. Are meetings like this about addressing that, trying to give liberal democracies a bit more oomph?
It's a great opportunity, I think, for liberal democracies and advanced economies alike to be able to align their thinking and their outlooks on how they're seeing issues around the world. And that relates to how we're responding particularly on COVID. And today the 100-day plan to be put in place in response to any future pandemic, I thought was an outstanding achievement by the UK working together with the Gates Foundation to put that before us, and that received a very good response, including from ourselves. But whatever the issues are, whether it's dealing today with issues of the pandemic or dealing tomorrow with open societies and market economies, this is a good opportunity for advanced economies and liberal democracies like us to share our views and to share our outlooks.
Now, another issue that came up or has come up during the G7 Plus summit has been the origins of the coronavirus and how it was handled by China. My understanding is that at a health forum today, Scott Morrison raised something he's raised before, the prospect of weapons inspectors or people with the power of weapons inspectors being employed by the WHO, World Health Organization, to investigate such pandemics in future, and that got quite a healthy and positive response from Boris Johnson and other leaders who liked the idea. I asked Scott Morrison about whether in fact he thought the virus COVID-19 might have escaped from the Wuhan lab and what he thought about how China handled it, no matter where it came from, in the aftermath of that. It was addressed this morning, the lab leak in your earlier press conference, the theory around the virus leaking from the lab. What's the US view on that? Can you give us a guide as to whether they think that's a possibility?
Well, you'd have to discuss that with the United States, but I didn't make any comment about the lab leak this morning. I was simply today referring to the recommendation that came from the report that was done for the WHO, and it recommended that further investigations be undertaken into possible sources. And we support that being done. We support there being greater transparency around all of these issues, not because of any issue of politics, but because it's essential. This was a key issue today that we discussed. We need to know how we must learn from this pandemic. This is what we're focused on doing, whether it's the preparations that need to be done for ensuring manufacturing and technology transfer for manufacturing of vaccines, not just in the developed world, but in the developing world. It was tremendous today to have Prime Minister Modi still being able to join us, very much from the front line of the pandemic, and to be sharing about the lessons that are needed to ensure that in the future, both the developed and the developing world can respond to serious and major and global health issues such as this.
There's two issues here. It's how it originated, and I take it you must think there's a chance it came from the lab because you...
Well, I don't know. I don't know.
And then there's the issue of China not informing other countries quickly enough. I think that's one of the things you're talking about with
Well, what's important in the future is that should there ever be an event, should there ever be a seriously communicable virus or disease, that the world acts swiftly. I mean, I thought the 100-day plan that was set out today was brilliant. And the leadership of the UK Chief Science Officer, I think it was, who played such a strong role in pulling this together, that's tremendous. But if we can act even earlier, and if the WHO can have the authorities that require that, then I think that's very positive. I mean, I've been making this point for a long time, that a WHO needs that independent strength. And the parties to the WHO need to have obligations and accountabilities that ensure that we all do whatever we can to avoid what has occurred on this occasion in the future.